Hey everyone, how's it going? Josh Shepard here, Principal Threat Hunter at Radical. And on this edition of the Threat Hunters Corner, we're going to be looking into a recent write-up that the DFIR report did on the More Eggs malware. Now, this is a malware as a service type malware. It's a backdoor. So basically, when the user inadvertently downloads and executes, it does open up that persistent backdoor access to the victim's machine. Now, in this particular campaign, the way it was actually spread was through a kind of interesting phishing technique, right? So, what the threat actors did is they looked on job boards and they saw which companies were opening positions, right? Had open positions for hire. The threat actor then sent that hiring manager or that company an email containing a quote unquote resume link, right? Like a personal website. When the hiring manager, the person that received the email, clicked that link, they were directed to that personal website. Looked like somebody's personal portfolio website, and on there was a download link. This downloaded a .zip file that supposedly contained that resume. In fact, what that zip contained was a .lnk file that was masquerading as a resume. Upon click, that LNK file is really what kicked off the infection. And now I'll link the whole report in the write-up of this video, but I think the interesting pieces of this particular campaign is it did leverage a couple local binaries that we really don't see too terribly often in campaigns. And so I want to talk about these two local binaries, how the threat actor made use of them, and then some ways we could write detective content. So first of all, what we're looking at is this ie4uinit.exe. This is a executable in the Windows operating system. And really what it does is anytime a user first logs in or loads some type of mandatory profile on a Windows device, it basically does setup. Right, so it interacts a little bit with the icons database, a couple other things, and the way it does this is using a .inf file. Now, the downside of this particular local binary is it doesn't do full process paths for that .inf file. So, what the threat actor does is upon the user clicking the .lnk file, basically that LNK file uses the command prompt to generate a malicious .inf file. It then copies the ie4uinit.exe binary from its location of system32 and then into the local user's app data local file or directory. Now, with this malicious.inf file and the local binary, what you could do is effectively sideload the malicious.inf file. Now, you may be wondering, what's the worst a threat actor could do with a .inf file? And that kind of comes to Microsoft being able to basically load remote comm scriptlets via this INF. So basically what you get is this ie4uinit.exe loads the .inf file with the -base settings command line parameter, which then will actually pull down and execute or fetch and execute these remote scriptlets. This then kicks off the rest of the infection chain. So just, I think, a very interesting use of a local binary, one we have seen before. I believe one of the earlier blog write-ups on it was in the 2018 timeframe. But again, just not one we see too terribly often. Now, from a detective perspective, I think pretty effective detections, depending on your environment, but just developing a detection for any time you see that particular binary, the ie4uinit.exe, executing with that -base settings command line parameter. Probably a good start. Again, there may be some false positives, but at least in our customer base, we haven't really seen that particular combination of binary and command line parameter occur too terribly often. So at the bare minimum, it could be something that you look into and should hopefully be a relatively low false positive analytic or low noise volume analytic. Moving into our second local binary that More Eggs used. So now, the resume link's been clicked. It used this fun local binary. It'll then build out some scheduled tasks using Reg Server 32 to load some malicious DLLs. And the scheduled task actually makes use of yet another local binary we don't see it used too often, and that's going to be your msxsl.exe. Now, this particular binary is used for XSL transformations, right? So XML transformations. Now, usually this doesn't seem too terribly bad, right? It's converting a XML file into another type of XML file or like an HTML file. So, what can a threat actor do that's malicious using MSXSL? And really, what that goes to is the MSXSL script tag. So, this particular binary can actually execute embedded script in XML documents. And so, what the threat actor does with this scheduled task to establish persistence, basically, it's a scheduled task to load some type of XML using msxsl.exe. And on that load, msxsl.exe basically executes some embedded obfuscated JavaScript in that XML file. So again, a kind of fun technique. So a couple things we could do to really pick up on this. So first of all, msxsl.exe in most environments, quite frankly, isn't going to be used very frequently. So depending on your environment, most environments I feel would fall under this category. You could just write an analytic for really any time that particular binary executes, right? It's not very common. And if it is common in your environment, you should be able to write some type of tuning around common use cases or certain dev shops that make use of it. But that's definitely one super broad, wide net analytic to pick up on this, especially if you don't use the binary. And then another piece is when we talk scheduled tasks. In this case, the threat actor obfuscates the XML as a .txt file. But again, a lot of scheduled tasks aren't going to be using randomly named .txt files or .xml files as an argument. And so therefore, I'd recommend, writing some analytics around that particular piece, right? If you're seeing SCH tasks being executed with some sort of reference to a .txt or .xml file, you could write analytics around that to pick that up. Again, if your environment does use this, it should be pretty standard name TXTs or XMLs, and you could write exclusions for that. But that's really what I kind of recommend there. So again, the more eggs write-up is amazing. I'll link the DFIR report article in the blog right up here. But yeah, that's just a couple things I wanted to really pull out of this campaign of just those fun, somewhat less commonly seen local binary abuses of the IE4 unit.exe and the msxsl.exe abuse, as well as a couple analytics and detection strategies you could use around those binaries. That is what we've got for this edition of the Threat Hunters Corner. As always, if you got any questions, comments, concerns about this, if you just want to chat, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode, and y'all stay safe out there.